Rabbi Tannenbaum mentioned in his opening remarks that it was a pretty late night last night, putting all of this together, and I found myself after midnight not being able to sleep. So I thought, okay, I'll start to call some family members in Israel and see how they're doing. So I called my brother last night. He lives in Petach Tikva, and I asked the silliest of questions: how are you doing? Just saw him last week. And his answer was, I'm okay, but. The word but that we know changes the entire meaning of what comes before it. I'm fine, but really, I'm not even close to being fine. And that's pretty much what I heard from most of my family members in Israel and friends that I reached out to. And then I started messaging some of my wife's family. And I messaged the Rabbi's aunt today. And I just sent her a message saying, again, those silly words, how are you doing? And she sent me back the following message I'd like to share with you. Thanks for thinking of us in these really awful times. One of our granddaughters, Roni, is in a search and rescue unit. But I only found out today what happened at her base, and I keep shaking. I continue reading the message. Miraculously, she had a furlough over Shabbat when the war started. Her base was invaded on Friday night, and all the soldiers were murdered. It's just too horrible to imagine. And then Shachar, another one of her granddaughters, is at a base in Gush Etzion. And she's reeling because her commander's death and of others killed. And then there's Nadav, a grandson, in a special forces unit, making final preparations before going into Gaza. And if that's not enough, I've known these kids since they were 2, 3, 4 years old, maybe younger. She writes, and Zviki, your roommate in yeshiva when you were 18, Sharona's first cousin, the man who unwittingly introduced us at a Shabbat table, he's now 41 with 6 kids. And he's just got called up with his whole unit. And they're also about to go into Gaza. May this end quickly now and forever, she writes. The death toll is horrific, and my heart is broken for so many, many families. I'm terribly worried about our kids. We need Hashem's rachamim. We need God's mercy. And why am I sharing this with you? Please tell them. Have your congregants pray hard for everyone. David HaMelech, King David, faced many challenges in his life. And perhaps his most difficult one was when he wasn't living in Eretz Yisrael, when he wasn't living in the land of Israel. He'd gone into hiding and was living with the Philistines, with the Philistines. He's living in a town called Ziklag, and he's out with all of his soldiers for 3 days. And when they come back, their wives and their children have been taken hostage. And David, who's not yet king, and his men break down into tears until they have no strength left for all their weeping. And the pasuk continues that at that moment, all the men were so angry that they wanted to kill David. We followed you. And this is what has befallen us. At that moment of deep despair, the Navi tells us Vayitchazek David b'Hashem Elokav. David was strengthened in Hashem, his God. At his biggest challenge, at the moment when we are asking, where is Hashem? David said he felt strengthened in his belief in God. This is not a challenge any of us have asked for, nor one that any of us would ask for. But it's up to us not to lose faith, not to give up. We must strengthen ourselves and strengthen one another. As the Rabbi said, now is a time for achdut, for unity. And if you hadn't already said the words, maybe I can echo them. That it is a time for us, not just to support Eretz Yisrael and Medinat Yisrael, which we will. It's very easy to give tzedakah. Very easy to make phone calls. But it's much harder to mend fences in our own backyard. And our responsibility is twofold. Our responsibility is, number one, to feel that we are Jews, that we do feel the suffering of our brothers and sisters in Israel. And number two, to realize that our actions also have an impact on our brothers and sisters in Israel. We too must do our part in fixing and repairing. Vayitchazek David b'Hashem Elokav. And David was strengthened in Hashem, his God. Hashem Elokav, he could see. We say Elohim is God's judgment, but Hashem, that's God's mercy. He could see in the judgment that there was mercy there also, that there was an opportunity to connect. Can we show that strength? Can we show that belief that in our time of our biggest struggle as a community, will we stand up together with our brothers and sisters in Israel, and will we do what we need to do here?